Tonight, we are getting a new window into former President Donald Trump's willingness to associate with highly controversial figures, just days after he announced his 2024 run for the White House. Let's bring in CNN national political reporter Maeve Reston. Maeve, we have Trump hosting rapper Kanye West, or Ye, at Mar-a-Lago down in Florida, as well as an outspoken Holocaust denier. What more do we know about this dinner?
So this started bubbling up, Alex, on social media when Ye was posting about his meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago this week. He was spotted at an airport, walking through an airport with Nick Fuentes, who, as you noted, is a Holocaust denier. He has been condemned by, the Anti-Defamation League for anti-Semitic comments, his white nationalist rhetoric. But Kanye basically put up a video saying that the three of them had had dinner along with others at Mar-a-Lago. And he claimed that Trump had been impressed with Fuentes. We saw the former president push back on this today on his Truth Social platform, and I'll just read you what he said. He said, "This past week, Kanye West called me to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Shortly thereafter, he unexpectedly showed up with three of his friends whom I knew nothing about. We had dinner on Tuesday evening with many members present on the back patio. The dinner was quick and uneventful. They then left for the airport." And Trump, just a short time ago, also posted again on Truth Social, saying that essentially that there was no anti-Semitism expressed at this dinner, and adding that he didn't know Nick Fuentes. But of course, we have seen this pattern from the former president before. When he is associated with controversial figures, he tries to distance himself from them. And of course, at the bottom of all of this, he's hosting Kanye West at Mar-a-Lago, his private club, someone who has recently been engulfed in controversy over his own anti-Semitic remarks. So it's pretty hard to imagine that the former president missed all of that, Alex.
All right, Maeve, stay with us. I want to bring in two others to this discussion. CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy and our senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe, the former FBI Deputy Director. Guys, thank you both for joining us. Oliver, let's put aside for a second the fact that apparently people can just show up to dinner with a former president and he didn't know about it. But Nick Fuentes isn't just anyone. He's a very well-known white nationalist, Holocaust denier. To Maeve's point about a pattern, do you think that Trump is trying to have it both ways when he associates with people like Fuentes and then kind of puts out a half-hearted apology?
Yeah, I think it stretches credibility to say that he didn't know who this was. I mean, Nick Fuentes is a pretty prominent individual in the far-right fever swamp that Donald Trump frequents these days. And so I find it hard to believe that he or his advisors didn't know ahead of time that who this was. And I also find it hard to believe during dinner that it didn't become quite clear how radical Fuentes is. I mean, this is a very vocal person when it comes to expressing extremist ideology. He was out there praising the Taliban, for instance, for taking over Afghanistan, saying it was a positive development in the world because he finds their Christian conservative worldview to be something that to aspire to. So even if he didn't know who he was prior to dinner, I'm sure he got a good sense of who he was during dinner. And take Kanye West with a grain of salt, but Kanye West is out there saying that he was very impressed with his views. Outside of all of that, he has one of these things, right? He could get on Truth Social right now and condemn Nick Fuentes. Instead, he's really just downplaying this dinner. So I think that kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I should correct myself. It wasn't an apology. It was some sort of explanation. The former president doesn't really apologize. Andrew, in terms of the danger here, how worrying is it, do you think, that the former president is really elevating people like this when especially this threat of domestic violent extremism we know is so high?
Well, it's a great question. And I think you have to go back a little bit to understand that for decades in this country, people who held and espoused the sorts of views that Nick Fuentes does kind of existed in a non-existent political backwater, right? You couldn't go out publicly and say these sorts of things. I mean, you have the right to do that, but you were pretty quickly denounced. The reason they're so prominent now is because people like Donald Trump and other political leaders in this country have done things like met with people like this, or responded to their invitations to speak at conferences, or met with them, accepted them as dinner guests in their home, the private club of Mar-a-Lago. Those sorts of actions validate these people and validate their views in a way that allows this toxic spread to grow. And this is what people like Nick Fuentes thrive on. He needs that sort of highly visible validation and acceptance by the absolute highest level of political leadership, in this case in the Republican Party anyway. He uses that to engender new supporters, new viewers, new readers of his materials. That's how they get their views out to a wider audience. That's how they recruit more people and supporters. And that's why we're in a situation today where domestic extremist violence is at levels we have never seen before, because these things that used to be relegated to the backwaters are now accepted and discussed right on social media and on regular media by people like that.
Yeah, it's just mainstreaming hate. It's as simple as that. Oliver, at the same time, we've got Twitter, of course, taken over by Elon Musk. More far-right voices have been allowed back onto the platform. What is the latest there?
Yeah, well, Nick Fuentes is actually one of those people who's been banned from the platform, and seemingly one of those people that would be covered under this general amnesty that Elon Musk says will occur next week for people who haven't broken the law but who have been banned from the platform. So I think you might be seeing Twitter get a lot more chaotic, and you talk about people used to being confined to dark corners of the web. Twitter is a place that platforms some of those people, and they were eventually banned. But now it seems that Musk is going to allow them back onto the platform and give them a voice. We
only have a couple moments left, but Andrew, to you again about the potential dangers there of these types of people being on this more mainstream platform. How worried are you about these changes?
All of that, Alex, conveys that sort of legitimacy and validation and gives them a megaphone to attract more viewers and more supporters. And it just, the snowball continues running downhill. It's a very dangerous situation.